Hi, it's Christy. Welcome back to Spacious Success. Have you noticed that sleep, which used to feel effortless, enjoyable, suddenly feels like a nightly battle, a chore? Are you wide awake at 2:20 a.m. yet again? You see, your heart's racing, your brain's in a full-blown brainstorming session, you're exhausted, but you can't even will yourself to go back to sleep. Does this sound familiar? It does. For me, it was the case for many years. I lived on little to no sleep. I ignorantly thought that I could power through. But sleep doesn't just impact your performance, it dictates your performance. And right now, women are struggling with sleep at higher rates than men, and this is contributing to the gender well-being gap. Today, I want to talk about why and what you can do in real time when you wake up in the middle of the night or when you're running on fumes the next day, because let's be honest, the show must go on. Hi, I'm Dr. Christy Goodwin, a Neuro-Performance scientist, speaker, and executive coach who learned the hard way that chasing success can come at a cost. After burnout landed me in hospital, I made it my mission to help ambitious women who are done trading their health and happiness for high performance. On Spacious Success, I share science-backed strategies and real stories to help you flourish as a female at work and beyond so you can stop paying the success tax. If I'm honest, for years, I'll admit that I wore my lack of sleep like a badge of honour. I often would brag about how little sleep I got. Late nights finishing webinars or hopping on early morning planes, calls, going to the gym at ridiculous o'clock, and in between, a restless brain that just couldn't shut off at 2 a.m. I told myself this is just part of being an ambitious woman. I'll catch up later on. But I never caught up. Instead, I became more irritable at home, less focused at work, more emotional about the most trivial, mundane things. My poor husband, my poor kids. My sleep habits, if I'm honest, were one of the chief reasons that I ended up burnt out and in a code red emergency ward. Tune in to episode 1 if you want to hear more about that one. You see, I work with many high-performing, ambitious women, and poor sleep sabotages their well-being, their performance. I see this with so many high-performing women that I speak to and coach. And here's what I've learned. When your sleep starts to unravel, your entire life unravels. So why are women, especially ambitious mid-career or high-career women, struggling so much with our sleep? The numbers tell the story and corroborate how you're probably feeling. Nearly 60% of women report that regular sleep problems compared to 45% of men. Women are twice as likely to experience insomnia, especially during perimenopause and menopause years. A 2024 Women's Health Survey showed that almost half of the female respondents said that poor sleep was one of their top health concerns. And here's why. Here's why we are struggling with sleep. Hormonal shifts. You see, progesterone normally calms down our nervous system. As it fluctuates and eventually drops in perimenopause, sleep often becomes lighter. It becomes more fragmented. It becomes harder to get. Estrogen, which normally buffers us against stress hormones, well, as it declines and fluctuates, well, cortisol begins to hit harder and last longer. The result? You often wake up between 2 and 3 a.m. with a racing heart, a never-ending to-do list, and you can't get back to sleep. You see, there's something called the stress carryover. You see, when your cortisol, your stress hormone, runs high all day, it spills into the night. Your natural cortisol pulse should see you waking up between 6 and 7 a.m. Now, if your cortisol begins to peak early, which it should between 2 or 3 a.m., if your cortisol cup was already full when you got into bed, then it simply overflows. The result? These early morning awakenings, the tired but wired nights, the dragging yourself through the next day, feeling miserable, distracted, and exhausted. Yet this is how so many women are living, as low-resed, powered-down versions of themselves, living on a cocktail of cortisol and caffeine. You see, our modern habits are contributing to this. It's not just screens, at least not in the way that you might think. We've recently debunked the whole blue light myth and the panic. The real problem, what we're doing at night. You see, our late night scrolling, our triaging our Teams chats, our revenge bedtime procrastination, where we tell ourselves just one more Netflix episode and suddenly it's 5 episodes later. Well, all of these things hyper-arouse our brain and delay the onset of our sleep. Layer in inconsistent sleep and wake times thanks to work calls, travel, sick kids, or shifting schedules, plus really poor wind down routines, power down routines, and your brain starts to link bedtime and stimulation not to bedtime and rest. If you're running at 110 kilometers all day, emails, decisions, logistics, problem solving, kids, and then at night you expect your brain to just instantly switch off, well, I'm sorry, but that's not how it works. Here's the fix: cognitive offloading. Before bed, write down your top 10 to-dos. Science actually tells us that it helps your brain to let go and fall asleep faster. You see, high performance starts with recovery, recovery starts with your sleep, and sleep starts with a power down, wind down routine that tells your brain it's safe to shut down. So if you're lying awake at 2 a.m. thinking, what's wrong with me? The answer is nothing. It's biology. It's your body whispering to you, and it's solvable with science. So what can you actually do? I want to split this into 2 parts because from lived experience, when we wake up, when it's 2:22 a.m. and your mind is racing, your heart is pounding, and all you can think of is, I'm never getting back to sleep, what can you do? Firstly, get out of bed. If you're awake for more than 20 minutes, don't stay there. Otherwise, your brain starts to link your bed with panic and problem solving. We make these unhelpful cognitive associations. Move to a quiet, dim space. Read a book, watch TV, do something passive. And when you begin to feel tired again, jump back into bed. Number 2, use your eyes to reset. I was really skeptical when I saw this one on Instagram, but I will admit I've used it several times and so have my clients, and believe it or not, it works. What do? You look to the right, you look to the left, you look up, you look down, and then you circle your eyes both ways. This bilateral stimulation calms down your nervous system and gives your mind a non-anxious task to perform. Number 3 is something called cognitive shuffling. Pick a word like bath. Then list objects that start with each letter. So for B, balloon, banana. A, anchor, apple. Picture each one clearly. This scrambles your racing thoughts and nudges your brain back into sleep mode. Number 4, remove your phone and the clock from your room. Clock watching spikes your cortisol. No good ever comes from seeing 3:04 a.m. Oh my goodness, only 3 hours until I actually need to wake up. And number 5, you might want to try non-sleep deep rest. Guided protocols on apps like Reverie or Insight Timer are a progressive muscle relaxation. This is a pseudo form of sleep and it mimics the brainwave sleep, or state I should say, when you are sleeping. The next thing, well, what can you do if you didn't get enough sleep the night before? What can you do when you've had a really crappy night's sleep, either in terms of the quality or the quantity that you've got? Number 1, try extra creatine. Now, if you haven't heard of creatine, I want you to think of creatine. It's not just for gym bros and junkies trying to bulk up at the gym on the squat rack. New research, it tells us that it can be a powerful tool for females and males for your brain, especially after you've had poor sleep. Research actually has told us recently that higher, what we call an acute dose of creatine, can partially reverse the cognitive impact of sleep deprivation. It improves our brain energy metabolism. What does this mean in real life? Well, you'll get faster processing speed. You'll get sharper focus, believe it or not, even when you're sleep deprived. You'll get better short-term memory. And we even think it can improve our prefrontal cortex's function. the part of the brain that we attribute to decision making and planning, the CEO or the air traffic control system of the brain, compared to a full night's sleep. That's right. In one high performance protocol I tested, I took 20 grams of creatine instead of my regular 5 grams. So that's about 4 times my usual dosage. It's aggressive, but under acute sleep loss, it kept me from feeling foggy and flatlined. Now, it's important, we still need more research on the long-term use of creatine, but this isn't a daily crutch. But on the mornings after your sleep has gone sideways, creatine can be a surprisingly effective cognitive buffer. Now, always check with your health professional and certainly don't start with 20 grams. The next one is to delay your caffeine by 90 minutes. Now, hear me out. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but here's why. Caffeine blocks our adenosine receptors. These are the sleep pressure molecules that should build up in our brain during the day. They're what make us feel tired. They're what make us yawn at night. Now, if you drink a coffee or a caffeinated drink immediately after waking, you block the receptors without clearing out your adenosine. So the caffeine lingers and it will lead to a dreaded 3 p.m. crash in your energy. Add to that, your cortisol is already high, naturally high in the morning. So coffee on top of that cortisol spike will just amplify your stress response. So my solution, ideally, wait 60, maybe even 90 minutes after waking up. You'll feel more alert, you'll avoid the afternoon energy and focus slump, I call it biscuit o'clock, and you'll give your body's natural cortisol system time to regulate. Number 3, try a nappuccino. This is one of my favorite protocols, and it was coined by Daniel Pink. This protocol combines the restorative power of a nap with the alertness that you do get from caffeine. And here's how it works. Drink a coffee. Immediately afterwards, take a 20 to 30 minute nap. As you wake, the caffeine will kick in. It usually takes around about 15 minutes or so to hit your bloodstream. By the time the caffeine kicks in, the result will be boosted alertness, focus, and mood because you've had a well-timed nap. Now, the timing matters. Ideally, you want to do it before 1 to 2 p.m. each day, and you also need to know that caffeine has a half-life of around 4 to 6 hours. So a late-night nappuccino can disrupt your subsequent sleep. We all process caffeine in different ways. We metabolize it in different ways, so there is some individual variation there. And number 4, have a cold shower. For years, I loved getting in the ocean in the middle of winter. Don't get me wrong, getting in there, the entry is really painful. Every cell in my body screams, "What are you doing? Get out!" But that euphoric feeling afterwards is incredible. And this is why. We know that cold exposure triggers a surge in epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine. These are the neurochemicals that sharpen our attention, boost our energy, and elevate our mood. Some studies have suggested that cold exposure can increase our baseline levels of these neurochemicals by an estimated 250 to 500%. There is no known legal, plenty of illegal substitutes that will get you that high that quick. The next thing I do if I haven't slept well is to get some morning sunlight. This one's really simple, it's free, and the research is clear. 10 minutes of sunlight, ideally within the first hour of waking up, will help not only reset your circadian rhythm, because magically 12 to 14 hours later, your body will start to produce your sleep hormone melatonin, but it will also boost your mood, your energy, by activating part of your brain called your hypothalamus. So getting outside in sun, 20 minutes on an overcast day, think of it as that morning sunlight boost as pressing the start button on your body clock. So here's what I want you to learn from today's episode. If you found yourself struggling with sleep lately, ladies, I want you to know it's not a weakness. It's your biology colliding with stress, intersecting with hormones and modern life. The ambitious women that I coach, they don't need another lecture about going to bed earlier, nor do they need to be told to stay off their phones before bed, because we now know that research tells us that doesn't impact our sleep in the way we once thought. But what we do need is evidence-based, science-backed protocols that will not only help us fall asleep, which we'll talk about in another episode, but help us go back to sleep or deal with the shortfall the next day. We need real tools when we wake up at 2:22 a.m. and science-backed ways to reset the next day. So this week, I want you to remember sleep problems aren't a personal failure. They're just a signal from your body, a way that your body can whisper to you. I want you to listen to your body's signals. And you have to wait. You don't have to wait, I want to say. You don't have to wait for a perfect night's sleep to show up well. The reality is we're all going to have crappy sleep from time to time. You just need to know what to do when your sleep goes sideways. In our next episode, we're going to explore cold exposure and why women need a very different approach to ice baths and cold showers than the bros that you might be watching on Instagram. Until then, if you're listening to this at 2:22 a.m., turn off the clock, get out of bed, grab your book, and know this: your body hasn't failed you. It just needs the right cues to reset, and tomorrow will be a new day. I'm Dr. Christy Goodwin, a neuro-performance scientist, speaker, author, executive coach, and mum. Thank you for listening to Spacious Success. If today's episode resonated, please subscribe so that you don't miss an episode. And I'd love it if you could share this with a friend who's been whispering to you all the time, "I'm so tired," under her breath. She needs this reminder that she's not alone, and there are some simple science-backed tools that will help her go back to sleep and/or cope the next morning. Until next time, thanks for listening.